Today's class is dedicated by Bill and Sue Auerbach in honor of the graduation of their son Matan. We wish him a lot of success and continued nachas from him and from the entire family. Amen. There was once a girl who brought her intended chassan, she wanted to get engaged to. She brought him home to her family to meet her parents. And the father takes him into his study and he starts to talk. He says, "Tell me, what do you do?" He says, "I study Torah all day." Study Torah, interesting. What about earning a living? He said, Hashem provides. He says, "Okay, that's great when you're single, but getting married, what's the plan?" He says, "Well, Hashem provides." He says, "Interesting. And then, God willing, you'll have a child." He says, "Hashem provides." He says, "But you'll have to get a bigger place, and you'll have 2-3 children. How are you going to support them?" He says, "Hashem survives. Hashem provides." So finally, after this 45-minute meeting, his daughter comes in and she asks the father, and he says, "What do you say about my groom to be?" He says, "I think he's a wonderful guy. I'm not sure why he keeps on calling me Hashem." We started Chumash Bamidbar this week, which is the 4th book. It's the Chumash that talks about the time when we were in the desert. It's really the stories that happened to us as we're in the desert, many different things that happened to us, how we lived, issues that happened. And as the Abarbanel splits it up, he says there are 10 parshas in this sefer. And the first half is about the journeys of the Yidden from Bamidbar through Kairach. And the second half from Chukas till Maseh is about preparation and wars before we went into Eretz Yisrael. But really this Chumash is not as much about mitzvahs. There are obviously mitzvahs, but not as many mitzvahs as we have in other parshas. And it's more of a focus and emphasis on what happened to the Yidden when we were in the desert per se. Now it's interesting, this parsha is always read before Shavuos. Sometimes Nosai, the next parsha, is also read before Shavuos, but Bamidbar will always be before Shavuos. And as discussed so many times, nothing is a coincidence, and there has to be a connection between the parsha of Bamidbar, which means in the desert, and the fact that we're having this great yontif of Shavuos, which starts Mitzvah Shabbos, Saturday night, when we received the Torah. What's the connection? So there's a medrash that tells us, medrash Tanchuma, that what's the real reason why Hashem gave the Torah in the desert in the first place? If you think about it, it's such a monumental occasion. You're giving a Torah, which you're taking a heavenly thing, God's gift. It's Hashem's wisdom, His desire, and you're presenting it to the Jewish people for eternity. Let's get a nice hall. Let's get everyone dressed up. Let's come to a really nice place and present it. Why do you go to a desert? It's really like neither here nor there. Either do it in Egypt while we're still living in a civilized place, or wait till we get to Eretz Yisrael once we're in Israel. And over there, maybe where the Beis HaMikdash will be built, or somewhere that has significance. Give us the Torah there. Why is the Torah given in a desert? This is a question that the Medrash asks. And the Medrash explains that by giving it in a particular place, people come and they say, this Torah is mine more than it's yours. Okay? Or they say, it applies only in this locale and not in another one. If I would receive the Torah in Israel, I may say, listen, Israelis have a deeper connection to the Torah than American Jews. Because where did Hashem give the Torah? He gave it in Israel. Or he could say, let's say he gave it in Egypt. He would say, in Egypt, you got to keep the Torah. But once you leave Egypt, Torah, it's an Egyptian thing. That's where we received it. It was for those people of that time. By Torah being given in a desert, which is no man's land, really, it shows you that Torah is equally available for everyone. It's not set to a particular country, a particular land, a particular geography. Just like the desert is an open place, anyone could go there. Similarly, the Torah is available for anyone that wants. You could learn it and feel that it's your own, and it really is our own. It's our gift. regardless of where a Jew was born, regardless of where we were raised, regardless of even how we're living our lives. We could be in a desert, but Torah is ours. So reading Parshas Bamidbar before Shavuos underscores that idea that we were in the desert. We weren't settled. We were traveling. We didn't have our own place yet. Because Torah is for everyone. Now,
How come 3/4 of Jews don't feel like it?
That's a separate question, different topic. Okay. The idea is that Torah is here to unite all Yidden from wherever we are. Okay, in all locations. Now, if you look at the Parsha, though, it's not about uniting people. It's actually the opposite of uniting people. Torah and this Parsha focuses a lot on the separation between people, specifically between tribes, between Shvatim. Torah tells us, let's start from the beginning. The beginning of the Parsha talks about counting the Jewish people. And you count them not as a whole initially, but you count them per tribe. Every Shevet, every tribe, how many hundreds of thousands of people were in this tribe, and how many thousands in this tribe, right? Thousands here, thousands there, collectively hundreds of thousands, but exactly the number you wanted to know per Shevet how many there were. That's not uniting the nation. That's dividing the nation. That's saying, oh, you're Shevet Reuven, you guys have this Shevet. You're Shevet Dan, you're huge. You're Shevet Yehuda, you really have a large amount. Shevet Levi was the smallest tribe of everyone. And interestingly, the reason why they were the smallest is because Torah tells us, as the Egyptians persecuted the Yidden, we grew. The more they hurt us, the more we grew. Says the Torah. As they made them suffer, the Yidden actually flourished as a result. Now, Shevet Levi was not subject to slavery. They were never slaves in Egypt. They lived in Egypt. They weren't able to escape and leave, but they were not subject to being slaves. And they sat and studied Torah. And as a result, their tribe did not multiply that much because they weren't persecuted. Right. It was a special blessing that the persecution that the Yidden had caused them to grow even more. But in any case, as you look at it, you see that the Shvatim and that the Jewish nation is divided in 12 tribes, and every tribe has its own count and is very separate, which is not about unity. It's not about, the desert, Torah belongs to everyone equally. Which tribe are you from? What are your numbers? You have more, you have less, you're bigger, you're smaller. Well, why should we do that? Let's look how the counting took place. The way the counting happened, it's fascinating. Moshe went with his entourage, and they came to every tent, and they said, how many are you inside this tent? I said, our name is so-and-so, literally a census visit. How many people are you in this tent? Okay, there's 2 of us, and this is our children. Okay, he writes down. Moshe Chaim is 4 people. Next, how many are in your tent? And he went tribe by tribe, tent by tent, telling them and finding out exactly how many people were in each tent. Now he has this huge notebook, whatever they used to write, that had all the names and all the numbers of all the families, not phone numbers, amounts of people. Now, Torah tells us, livne, to this tribe, you had this amount. To this tribe, like livnei Shimon, you had this amount. Livnei Ruvain, this amount. Besides, when it comes to Naphtali, when it comes to the tribe of Naphtali, it doesn't say livnei Naphtali, it says bnei Naphtali. So let's go over this count. We're going to tell you, okay, so to the tribe of Shimon, we had this number of people. To the tribe of Levi, we had that number of people. And when it got to the very end, tribe of Naphtali had this amount. You don't say li to the tribe. Why? Because the way it worked was, after Moshe Rabbeinu did the whole count, he sat down with the rest of his team, so to speak, and they sat down and they said, okay, let's take a notebook and I'll tell you how many Reuven has. And he opened up his page and he said, okay, to the tribe of Reuven 6, to the tribe of Reuven 8, to the tribe of Reuven. And he went to each one and told them, okay, this family of Reuven, to that notebook, li, to that notebook, because li in Hebrew is 2, add this number, that number, that number, this family, that number, and so on, until he had the whole thing. Then he went to the next Shevet, and he said, okay, let me tell you what I have in my notebook. To the notebook of that tribe, write this. Yeah.
So
There was a duplicate on.
Yes, because what happened was Moshe had this huge list, a notebook of names as he traveled to the camp of each tribe. Then when it was all set together, you have to add them up. How do you add it up? You take a bunch of notebooks and you say, okay, now we're going to do the tribe of Ruvain. Okay, sir, to the tribe of Ruvain, I have the Weiss family, 14 people. The children of Chaim family, this amount of people. And they added them all up. This is, by the way, an explanation from the Arizal. The Arizal says this is what happened. So what ended up happening here is every tribe was counted as to that tribe, was recorded. And then you came to Naphtali and it said, Naphtali, that was the last one left. We just left it in there. We just had to add it up. So basically the way it was done, we had to separate every tribe, give it its own notebook, its own count. That's dividing people. Why don't we just say, Am Yisrael? How many were we? 600 plus thousand or whatever. Okay? I'm going to ask that we keep the questions short and to the topic. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it says that Bnei Ephraim so much. When it comes to Menashe, Bnei Menashe, Bnei Yosef so much. Wow.
Okay, it's a very good point, and then really a long thing on its own. But Yosef has a separate specialty, a gift that he got, that he has the two Shvatim coming from him.
But simple question, we're not supposed to call them Jews.
Very good. There's different ways of counting Jews when Hashem says. One way is to giving the coins, and one way is that when you say how many are in this tent, as opposed to saying 1, 2, 3. So a family says, there's ways of doing it. And obviously when Moshe Rabbeinu was doing it, it has special protection, it's a mitzvah from Hashem, and so on and so forth. Okay. So this idea of counting tribes separately is not uniting, it's dividing. Okay, it's tribalism at its finest. Not only that, but every tribe had its own flag. Why don't you have one flag for the entire nation? This is the Jewish flag. Why do you have to say, okay, Reuven's going to have your own flag, Shimon his own flag? Every tribe had a flag, its own color, its own image on the color. Right? If Reuven's flag was red, and Shimon was green, and Levi, I think, was black and red together, every tribe had their color. And Reuven had an image, they all had images, which represented who they were. Reuven's image was dudaim. We'll call it loosely flowers or plants. When he brought his mother the flowers, with what everything represents, that was their flag. He had an image on it. So instead of uniting, we're one nation, we're all descendants from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, you now have 12 tribes. We count them separately. We have separate flags with colors, with emblems. What's the point of doing that? And isn't this counterproductive to everything that we're saying about unity?
Yes.
Not only that, but they camped separately. There was a special spot for every tribe to be in the desert. Now, before this whole issue with the 40 years of the desert, that wasn't the plan. The plan initially was to be in the desert for 11 days. Okay, it takes 11 days to get from Mitzrayim, once we cross the sea, to get to Eretz Yisrael. Things didn't exactly go as we thought they would because of certain issues, but we ended up being there for 40 years. But it should have been 11 days. Why do you care where you sit and where you camp your tent for 11 days? You're traveling, whatever, wherever you are. We're on our way somewhere. And Torah says, no. I need you to camp this way. This is where every tribe is going to be. It was a beautiful setup. You had the camp, so to speak, where the Mishkan would be later, but the camp in the center. And around it, you had 3 tribes on each side, specially aligned in a very specific way. This is how they have to rest. And they traveled in that way. So you couldn't just say, oh, I'm going to hang out with the other tribe. Why not? It's your cousin. Why can't you? We lived in Egypt together. We left together. We're going to Eretz Yisrael together. No. You got to stick with your tribe. There's issues in other countries, hopefully getting less, where there's wars for generations, tribal wars, and they can't even figure it out because it's so deep of that tribalisms. And it seems from Torah, if you look closely at our parsha, when you count us separate, when you give us different flags, when you give us different locations where we have to rest and how we travel in a certain formation, you can't hang out with your buddy from a different tribe, that we're promoting this division. There's even a commentary that says that you're not allowed to be next to the flag of another tribe. You could go visit, but you can't sleep overnight there. You can't hang out there. This is not your tribe. You have to be with your tribe. It's a very troubling idea, if you think about it, of what the side effects of this does to a nation. And by the way, also daughters was an issue. Why was daughters an issue? Because tribe goes, it's a paternal lineage. Okay, so your tribe goes on based who your father was. Now, what if a daughter of let's use the name Chaim. There's a man named Chaim. He only had daughters. Okay, and these daughters have to get married. Now they inherit their father's portion of land in Eretz Yisrael, but there's no sons. They get married to someone from a different tribe. Do they get Chaim's land? It belongs to this tribe. So we say no. They have to marry within their tribe. They couldn't even marry. What's the problem? Another fine Jewish family. Why can't you marry him? Not your tribe. Yeah. Later it was removed. Which one of the thanks for bringing it up. One of the big reasons why we celebrate the 15th of Av is because that's when our sages took off the prohibition of intermarrying among tribes of the Jewish people. They said that it only applied in the times of the desert, and this is not an ongoing restriction. But up until that point, if you were Shevet Ruvain, you only married in Shevet Ruvain. Cousins, second cousins, fifth cousins, but it was all within your tribe. You couldn't marry out. Why is that? And by the way, it says when Mashiach will come, what's Mashiach going to do? He's going to look at each person and say, it says it about smell. He's going to look at you and tell you, you, tribe Ruvain, you, tribe Shimon. 1 second. We went through the whole Golos, all the suffering. We were persecuted all the same. No one cared if you were a Kayan or a Levi or a Yisrael. And now, you're going to go to that tribe. You're going to go to that tribe. That tribe. Why are you dividing us? For what reason? It says that there's 12 portals to get in. And every tribe goes into its own port through its own portal.
Only Shevet Yehuda is the survival from all the tribes.
Okay, it's a different question how we deal with the lost tribes. But yeah.
Where did the Arab Rav, where did they camp?
It was a separate. It seems that for converts who didn't have a tribe, they were either with the Levim, perhaps, who didn't have a portion in Eretz Yisrael, or they had separate. It was addressed, it was dealt with. But you see this underpinning of tribe, and at the same time we say, you know why the Torah was given in the desert? Because it doesn't belong to any particular place per se. You know why it wasn't given in Eretz Yisrael? There's another commentary. Because let's say it was given in Yerushalayim. Then Binyamin will come and say, Torah is really mine, because God chose to give it a my portion in Eretz Yisrael, right? In Israel, it was also divided by tribe. So again, you have the same issue, where we recognize that this tribalism and Torah has to be given out of Eretz Yisrael, the holiest place, to avoid any Shevet coming and saying it's mine. Okay, so what's behind this whole thing? There's one commentary, the Rashbam, he says, it has to do with war. It has to do with battle. The reason why you count all the Yidden and you divide them by tribe and you line them up in a certain way, both for camping and for traveling, is because you're going to war and you have to be able to divide by, let's call it battalions or troops. Okay, the back tribe of Dan had to be a larger tribe because if enemy comes from behind us, they have to be ready, has to be set up a certain way. It's not because we're dividing people. It's just we're traveling and the world hates us and we need to be ready for dealing with our enemies. So by counting each tribe and positioning each tribe, that's strategy for war. That's how you deal with these things. So it gives a technical reason. It's not division. It's for battle. It's just the way of war. And at that stage, that's really something that was needed. And the Barbanel also says a similar thing, that it's about preparation for war. Now, this works for the time that we were in the desert. It's a good explanation. We have to go for war. When we mentioned that when Mashiach comes, we're also going to have that issue. We're also going to be divided by tribes. and Mashiach is going to tell you which tribe you're really from, there's no war then. One of the big things about Mashiach's coming is there's no war. Why do we have to be divided? The Medrash tells us that the idea of flags in general, the nations of the world got it from the Jews. The idea that there's a flag, we came up with this idea in the first place, and we had it in the way of tribes and other kings. So it's a beautiful idea. This is like a flag. This is an emblem. This is a sign, a post. And they took that concept. So we're pioneering this idea. The Torah that's all about being a light unto others. It's all about having unity. It's all about having inclusion. Tribe. Why do we do this? So I want to share a Hasidic explanation to this. So first, a story. The Kotzker Rebbe had a Talmud, a student, a Chassid, follower of his, who got married, and his father-in-law said, I'm going to support you. I want you to sit and study Torah all day. And what's going to be with providing for your family? I'll provide. And his father-in-law was a wealthy man. He had several businesses, and he supported his son-in-law to study Torah. Beautiful. This went on for 10, 15, 20 years of this. One day, unfortunately, his father-in-law passed away, and he had to take over the business. So he closed his Gemara, his Talmud, and he made his way to the business. And he did a good job. He protected it. He grew it. He maintained it. He was okay. He was able to continue his lifestyle, and anyone else that was relying on them was able to be helped, and everything was fine. He comes running to the Kotzker Rebbe 6 months or 8 months after he took over the business, and he says, Rebbe, I can't handle this. What do you mean? He says, for 20 years, I sat and studied Torah all day. That's what I did. And now I had no choice, and I had to go and take over the business. It's fine. But I don't have time to study Torah. A little bit in the morning, a little bit at night, but not like I used to, 10, 12, 14, and 15 hours a day. It's not the same. And now we're coming to Rosh Hashanah, he says. And how could I even approach God? What did I learn this year? What did I cover? I'm out of this whole world. Lukatzka looked at him and he said, I don't understand. When you were studying Torah, you did one mitzvah, important mitzvah. But you studied Torah. In the last 8-10 months that you're running the business, you did many mitzvahs, right? You had to make sure that when you borrow money, you don't do interest. You had to make sure that you don't exaggerate, you don't cheat when you do your business dealings. You have to make sure you pay your workers on time. All these mitzvahs that apply to Torah, that Torah tells us to live our lives that apply in the business world, you're coming to Rosh Hashanah with a year of all those mitzvahs. So yes, you don't feel the same inspiration per se, and Torah is equal to everything else, but you had the opportunity to do so many mitzvahs, which for 20 years, it didn't apply to you. You sat and studied. Don't look at it that way. Who is more important in Hashem's eyes? The Levi who's serving in the Beis HaMikdash? Or is it Shimon, who is teachers, the tribe of Shimon, their descendants are teachers, Malamdim, teaching Torah all over the land of Israel, traveling and teaching children Torah? Or maybe it's Yehuda, they're the ones that are the royal tribe, the kings. Maybe it's Issachar versus Zvulun, who's business people versus learning Torah people. Every tribe had their thing. Who's more important? Torah says, I need every single tribe, and I need them to be unique. I need them to be highlighted in the way they are. In other words, don't say, all the Yidden, we're going to brush them with one broad brush and say, okay, this is it. We're the Jewish nation. That's going to make them all the same and not highlight the uniqueness, the talent, the ability that every single Yid has. Every person has a quality that you bring to the table, a gift that only you have, that's indispensable. It's a reason why you're in this world. Because Hashem says you could do something that no one else could do. It's not, whatever, I'm part of a group, right? There's Am Yisrael and there's Reb Yisrael, right? You're an individual also, and an important individual to Hashem's plan. So by counting every tribe on their own and giving them a name and a flag and a color and a number and a location, You're telling them you as a tribe, as a family, as a group, matter to the bigger picture. Not just one of many. You're one of many. You're very important to the whole picture. This is the way Chassidus looks at it and explains to you that every person has a mission in life. Every person has a purpose and something that you bring to the world. And you need to value that, appreciate it, both in yourself and in others. Okay, the Rebbe says in the Sichos, this idea of division reminds us that there are many ways to serve God. Many different ways. One person likes to daven all day, and he serves Hashem through prayer. Another person, his personality is such that he likes to do good deeds to people, to help them out, to be kind, to share, to give, and so on. Right? And that person has to do it in his way. And someone else is very studious, he sits and studies. Every person has what they're good at. It's not that it's wrong, it's different, but that's what you're here for. Every neshama is different. You know why we have so many different versions of davening? You go into a shul, and you have the Nusach Sfard, you have the Chabad version, the Sephardic version, Ashkenazic version. You have within the Ashkenazic version, you have so many different types. Why there's so much? We're all talking to the same God, we're the same nation. Why are there so many different versions of the davening? You start with this page, with that page. Well, for what reason? And the reason is because there are many gates to reach Hashem. And we take different gates based on our personality, based on our tribe, based on where we come from, based on the makeup of our neshama. We're all going to the same place. We're all praying to Hashem. But it comes differently. There's different ways of doing it. It says the Alter Rebbe, when he made the Siddur, the Chabad Siddur, based on the Arizal of Kabbalah, he combined 60 or over 60 types of Siddurim to enable a path that any direction that you're coming from, any personality that you have, any gate that your soul is more attached to, you could come into that highway, if you will. But the idea that you find here is that there's so many different ways of serving Hashem. Don't say there's one nation. There is one nation, and we are united. But we're united as individuals coming together, and each person brings their specialty, their unique quality to the table. So don't blend people together by saying you're all the same. We're each different. We're each unique. And in our uniqueness, we come and we contribute to one another. We complement one another. It becomes better that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
So this was the setup. It's actually two in front, two in the back, two in the side, and one between them.
Kind of, but if you look at it from that angle, there's four over there. I understand it wasn't lined. But
Yeah, right. I understand.